Alright, welcome to the last topic of this chapter, managing your website, and we are now going to talk about classes and objects in HTML language. Okay, and before I can talk about classes and explain how classes work and what objects are and how they work in HTML language, there is a concept that I want to explain to you, and that's called object oriented programming, or OOP. Okay, it's a style of programming that focuses on using objects to design and build your applications. Okay, now if you have a notepad and if you have a program written in a notepad, you are actually trying to create an application, right? And within the application, there are many instances where you would need to manipulate several elements at the same time. Now, it wouldn't be very practical, especially if you have large volume of code, to go to each element and define the style. Okay, and this is where the CSS, the Cascade Style Sheets, come, and CSS has a lot of classes for you to be able to refer in your code and apply them wherever you want. Okay, and it actually helps you to prevent you to reinventing the wheel. I explained this a little bit before in the previous topics as well. Classes and objects are actually an implementation of object-oriented programming. Nowadays, all programs are object-oriented, which means they create objects to be reused again and again in the program. For example, an object for flash file, swf.swf file, an object for another web page to be embedded within your website. Okay, and an object for YouTube, embedding a video, an object for audio. Any kind of widget that you want to embed in your website is defined by the object tag. Okay, and you're able to reuse this tag again and again to embed different objects with different parameters, different dimensions, different sizes. Okay, so in order to do that, you need to understand the concept of classes and objects. Okay, objects are contained within classes. Okay, and classes are a way to define the behavior of the program. Okay, how would the program behave? What kind of font color, type, font size would be used? Okay, for example, font size for heading is defined in one class. If you call that class in your code without writing any additional code, you should be able to define automatically define the font size, color, typeface, everything for that particular element. Okay, which is calling the class. Okay, and within the class there are many objects. So if you have defined the class at the top of your folder, for example, we have defined the class style here. Okay, you would be able to refer it again and again and again within your code. Okay, and let me try to explain this. So when you talk about the style class, the CSS style class, we're talking about CSS right now, but I'm not going to go into detail because I'm going to save it for the next course, HTML2, in which I would be talking full-fledged about CSS. But I just wanted to introduce you that how I don't want you to get discouraged that, oh my god, if I need to create a website and I'm defining elements, I have to write so much code. You don't have to. If you know CSS, you only have to write relatively, shorter or lesser code. So supposing if you define the style, okay, you declare the style for the class, and then you can assign this class to any element. Okay, for example, this style class is assigned to h1, the heading here. Okay, you have defined the class name is style and the object is intro. Another object is paragraph dot important. Okay, and you're going to refer it in your code again and again throughout the code. So this is what it looks like. The header one is this, a paragraph. This is where you add information. Every time you open up the header, it will be of this color without you defining style is equal to color is equal to blue, or the hex code for the blue, or the RGB code for the blue. You don't have to do that. Every time you write paragraph, it's going to have the same font size, which is default right now. We didn't define it much. And if you want to write something important, okay, you can call the important object of the style class, and it's going to be displayed here. It's going to be displayed like this. Okay, anywhere you want to stress on something important, it's going to be green in color. Okay, so this is how you can define your classes and objects within a program and make your program much shorter. If you wrote this without CSS, this program would be a little bit longer. It would end till here, a little bit lower than that. Okay, the general syntax for class name is dot class name, and it is usually within the curly brackets. Okay, property value. Okay, if you understand, and semicolon, if you understand, this is the general syntax of defining a class. Okay, class name. Okay, this is dot class name intro, and you have a property which is color and its value is blue. Okay, you keep defining that within the style, within the style class. Okay, and the other thing was defining the object. The object tag is written something like this: object width equals to 400, for example, inverted commas closed, height equals to 400 again, and you get the data from a flash file called my first page. Okay, dot swf. Okay, what am I trying to do here? Let me explain. Okay, and then you close the object tag. Wherever this code is embedded, this file, my first page dot swf, would be embedded with the following dimensions: 400 width and 400 height. It's going to be something like this here, the notepad size dimensions. So wherever I embed this code, for example, if I embed this code here, and this is how it's going to be. Let me try to make this smaller. Okay, this is how the flash file would appear. Okay, flash file is the object. Okay, and then many other objects you could use. You could embed an HTML file and HTML page within your website. You could take an address of another page and put it here. Okay, supposing you looking at this video right now in YouTube, and I want to embed it in this page, in this web page. I simply have to write down the address of the YouTube, get the data from here. Okay, remember it. Okay, when I would do the multimedia part of this course, I will explain this in more detail, but for now I need you to understand what are classes, how they help make your life easier as a programmer, and what is an object, and what is the purpose of integrating objects within your code. Okay, so the final words about object is the object tag element, okay, will either be treated as an image or as a nested browsing context or as an external resource to be processed by a plugin. Okay, so you can have the object tag to be used in three ways. Number one, it could be embedded in your website, web page. Okay, number two could be an image. Okay, And number 3, I told you there are more than one way of doing the same thing in HTML. Okay, the more knowledge you have, the more whatever you remember at that time, and also you have to follow best programming practices. And remember, programming is all about logic. If you the decision to use a particular code for an image is all about what kind of code you've been using before and what you will be using later on. You don't want any code to clash with each other and your program to break down. Okay, so for whatever the situation calls for, use the right code. For example, if you're trying to embed the image, we have image source tag. Try to use that. Unless and until your image is animated or it is made using a different program which cannot be stored in your computer. Okay, for example, you have this image in a Dropbox or any kind of cloud storage. You need to call it within your program. You could embed it as an object. Okay, that is one application of using object to embed images that are externally located, not in the folder itself. Okay, in the folder of your website itself. And the third application of object is to use externally with the aid of a plugin. Okay, so these 3 ways are the different applications of using the object tag. Okay, before I conclude this chapter, I would like to introduce you to the param tag as well. Okay, param tag is used in conjunction with the object tag, and this is just for your knowledge right now, because I'm not going to be applying any of this right now. The param tag is used to pass parameters to plugins that have been embedded using the object tag. Okay, for example, it is used to define the behavior of plugins. Okay, embedded as objects in your web page. Okay, don't want you to get stressed out that this is getting very complicated. It is not. I'm just introducing you to classes, objects, and what kind of code is required to implement sheets, implement website that has larger variety of font, a larger variety of text style and colors available to you. Believe me, CSS offers a wide array of colors and fonts and type font and many opportunities for you to improve and make your website look more hip and current. Okay, so this we will save for the next course, HTML2. The CSS will be covered in there. Okay, with this I conclude my chapter. Okay, and I'm going to be in the next chapter 5. I will be dealing with tables. Okay, so let's wait for the next video.